Yeah, Donald Trump was in the courtroom again yesterday, and as so often is the case when he's in the courtroom, there are some unexpected turns, and that was certainly the case yesterday. He found himself on the witness stand, Kevin, answering questions directly from the judge. And the judge was concerned that Donald Trump might be criticizing his law clerk again, so he told Trump to get up on the stand and answer for it. And Trump's like, "Sure thing, Judge. Here I come."
Yeah, something like that. Donald Trump was ordered not to talk about the case, so of course Donald Trump did talk about the case. Judge says, "I'm the boss here. Get up here on the stand. I got some questions for you, Mr. Former President." The judge didn't like Trump's answers. I think he thought he was lying. In fact, fined him $10,000, and Donald Trump didn't care for that much either. Let's bring in Roshini Rajkumar, political strategist, attorney, and host of the Crisis Files podcast. Good morning, Roshini. How are you?
Good morning, guys. Thanks for having me on.
You know, why can't this former President Donald Trump get a political strategist or a coach who can sort of walk him through how to go through life a little easier where he's not upsetting judges?
He certainly needs one, that's for sure, Kevin. It's really unfortunate that, and my guess is the attorneys have tried, right? I'd like to hope his own attorneys have given him some lessons in courtroom decorum. And look, this is just the way it works. It's a natural course in certain high-profile cases, and this is certainly one of them, that the judge will say to both sides, watch what you're saying outside of this courtroom. I mean, and when you think about it in the long run, you actually want the things that are going to be on the record only said in court, and you don't want things that are said outside of court or on digital platforms, social media, to hurt you or hurt any party in a proceeding. So this is why these kinds of rules are established. And if Donald Trump would really think about it, some of these rules, most of these rules, would also protect him. And that's what's really frustrating for me as a lawyer, is that his lawyers can't get him under control. And this is like the sideshow continues beyond what's actually happening in court.
Yeah, I'm sure Donald Trump doesn't care about the $10,000 fine, but is there any concern he should have about appearing as a witness on the stand in a case against him? I mean, his lawyers can't be happy about that, right?
Yeah, I mean, even if you say, nothing you say shall be used against you, it can always be used against you. I mean, it was heard out loud, and that can go into the opposite side's court strategy, trial strategy. So you just have to be careful. I mean, I cannot stress it enough for your listeners out there. If they ever find themselves in court accused of something, shut up. Only speak based on what you are asked and what your attorneys kind of say are the good parameters to be talking about. So I have this feeling, we've talked about this over the years together, guys, that Donald Trump will say things that he thinks maybe in his mind it's okay to say, or it's rallying the troops for me, or the people who are on my side, it's rallying them. But really, he puts these bombs out there, these firecrackers out there, and they really start out on a life of their own. And I just would like for him to use a little more caution for his own defense, right? I mean, and it's just the sideshows. I just can't get into it enough. These sideshows are getting to be a little overwhelming.
Yeah, they're overwhelming. They are a distraction. They are a sideshow. To his comments directly, what he was talking about out there was a person who is very partisan sitting alongside the judge. It was essentially what he said. So the judge assumed that he was talking about his law clerk, calls him to the stand. He says, who are you referring to? He said, you and Cohen. He says he was referring to his former attorney, Michael Cohen, not the law clerk. How does a judge know that wasn't the case? I mean, he fined him. Obviously, it's easy to kind of look at that and say, he's probably lying about it. But how does he know for sure?
Yeah, I don't know that the judge does know for sure. But at the same time, when there are these either accusations or innuendo, those things are said, the judge probably feels, okay, I need to clarify this. And again, it just kind of goes to what my absolute advice to my client would be if he were my client is, please do not just say extraneous things, because they will get taken out of context. Then we're sitting here worrying about the he said, and what did you actually mean instead of what's going on in front of you. And, when you really boil it down, Tom and Kevin, to what Donald Trump might be trying to do, of course he wants distraction. of course he wants everything about Michael Cohen discredited. So maybe there is some sort of sense in the chaos for Donald Trump in his own mind that this is helping distract and this is helping to bring the credibility of Michael Cohen further down or into real big question. And that could be an interior strategy of Donald Trump's. Now, whether his attorneys have any part of that, I don't know for sure. It's not a great idea.
Yeah, I think the attorneys don't like the fact the law clerk is rolling her eyes, based on certain responses from the Trump team. So the temptation has got to be there for Donald Trump to say, he's got to resist those temptations. It's this intricate balance, right? I mean, he's in the middle of a presidential campaign, and he's got a very, some legal responsibilities as well. He's got to walk this fine line, which most presidential candidates have never had to do before.
Yeah, I mean, it's not only a fine line, Tom, it's a tightrope. He's walking the thinnest tightrope ever. And it's in a normal courtroom, the judges, law clerks, who, by the way, are, 9.9 times out of 10 licensed attorneys themselves, those law clerks are sitting there assisting the judge. They are watching, they're taking notes, they're doing different things. They're the ones who eventually write out the orders and all those kinds of things that the judge, once the judge makes decisions. So it is inappropriate for a law clerk or anyone who is part of an officer of the court to be rolling eyes at any witness. So that is inappropriate, and that is appropriate for Trump's attorneys to bring that up. And you've got to bring it up in a way that's also respectful of the courtroom atmosphere, whether it's a sidebar or whether it's, an off in chambers kind of thing with the judge. But it is very much something I can see why his attorneys would want to get under control, and it does bring a little credibility into question in that courtroom. So there are just so many different things happening, and I think in taking it as a totality of the circumstances, this judge is most likely just trying to continue to do the work of the court, uphold justice, and showcase some sort of level of fairness. And I would like to think that's what the judge is doing with each of the actions that have been taken.
Or bring attention to himself, as some judges like to do. Is there any exposure for the judge at all, taking on Donald Trump and telling him to sit down and shut up?
Well, there's exposure for the judge, but frankly, judges shouldn't care. Judges shouldn't care what we think of them. The judges are supposed to be the most neutral in our entire system, and they are just supposed to be making sure laws are followed. And when they're not, there's a punishment for that. So a good judge doesn't really give a darn about what the public thinks about them and what the court actors think about them. Now, opinion. Now, what the judge does has to be fair, and they can be, whether it's reprimanded or punished in their own system for doing things that aren't according to the rules of that court. But a good judge really shouldn't think, what's the opinion that the public or anyone else really has of me, as long as the judge is upholding the rules of evidence, the rules in that courtroom, and the rules of, in this case, the state of New York in this particular legal forum, then that is really all the judge cares about.
All right. Well, we'll keep watching the trial, as you will as well. Roshini Rajkumar, political strategist and host of the Crisis Files podcast. Good to talk to you. Have a good weekend.
You too, guys. Thanks.